All right, welcome. Today, we're diving into a really radical idea for global unity. It's one that doesn't rely on armies or laws, but on the power of a single symbolic leader. So let's explore the roadmap for how a figure like that could even come to be. So let's just start with the huge question at the center of all this. Could one person with absolutely zero political power actually unite the entire world? I know, it sounds a little like science fiction, but the model we're looking at today says it's not just possible, it might even be necessary. So what are we talking about here? It's this idea of a global symbolic leader. Now, this isn't a president, it's not a prime minister. Their influence comes purely from universal trust and symbolism, not from making policy. And the whole idea is directly inspired by the apolitical symbolic role of the Japanese emperor. So how in the world does something like this happen? Well, the source material lays out this 5-stage journey. You start by building a rock-solid foundation of trust. Then, you weave a global network. You become a universal symbol. You institutionalize the role. And then finally, you solidify a lasting legacy. Let's start right at the beginning. Okay, here we are at stage 1, building the foundation. And this is the absolute bedrock of the entire concept. It's all about establishing unshakable trust and complete neutrality, not just at home, but on a global scale. The main thing to get here is this idea of separation. The goal is to build up trust within your own country while also boosting your neutrality internationally. And how do you do that? You focus on symbolic events, peace, and culture, and you stay strictly, and I mean strictly, out of politics. So in the real world, this would look like promoting cultural initiatives, visiting sites of war and disaster to offer condolences, not to offer political solutions, and supporting humanitarian groups like the UN. The absolute most important rule: avoid all domestic political fights, period. Okay, so once that foundation of trust is in place, you move on to stage 2, which is all about weaving a global network. This is where that influence starts to stretch across national borders. Here, the goal shifts. It's no longer just about a national base. It's about building a transnational network of trust. And you do that by strengthening ties with big international institutions and, this is really important, with the global scientific and cultural communities. It's about connecting the connectors. And what does that actually look like? Well, we're talking about symbolic cooperation with groups like the UN, the WHO, and UNESCO. It means building real relationships with climate scientists and AI ethics organizations. You know, the people who are shaping our future. This leader might even act as a symbolic advisor to universities, all while putting out these unifying, neutral messages during a crisis. And all of that leads us to the pivotal 3rd stage, becoming a global symbol. This is the moment the leader's role really explodes onto the world stage, with the incredible goal of earning the trust of every single person on the planet. The purpose is massive: become a symbol that the entire global population trusts. And the way to do that is to lead global symbolic ceremonies and start to offer a shared ethical vision for all of humanity. See, it's not just about connecting networks anymore, it's about actually shaping a global consciousness. And the actions this person would take, they're pretty profound. This leader would be the face of global events like Earth Day or the International Day of Peace. They'd be putting out regular messages on global ethics, tackling the big stuff like climate, technology, and peace. And crucially, think about a global crisis like a pandemic. This figure would be the point of psychological unity for everyone. All right, so the final stages 4 and 5 are all about making this thing last. It's a huge shift from just establishing the symbol to making it permanent, making it transcendent, ensuring it can outlive any one person. And this is absolutely key. The whole thing can't just depend on one super charismatic person. The goal has to be to create a stable, official role that doesn't rely on a single person's personality or their lifespan. It has to outlive its creator. The plan for this is actually pretty practical. The idea is to create a formal, symbolic emperor-type post inside some kind of future global government. Successors wouldn't be elected in a political free-for-all. Instead, they'd be chosen through a process involving nations, NGOs, and scientists to make sure there's continuity and that the next generation gets a deep education in ethics and science. So this really gets to the heart of the entire idea. Let's just break down the difference. On one side, you've got political power. It wields authority, it makes laws, it enforces decisions, and it manages the practical, messy stuff. But on the other side, you have symbolic leadership. It earns trust, it shapes ethics and values, it inspires unity, and it represents the ideal we're all striving for. I want to just pause on this for a second because this quote really is the core of the whole thing. The global symbolic leader has influence not through power, but through trust and symbolism. It's a total reframing of what we even think leadership is. And you have to remember the kind of world this person would exist in. The source material imagines a future where the day-to-day work of governing is handled by some kind of global government, or maybe even an advanced AI. That frees up this leader to focus only on the symbolic and ethical parts of being human. So this leaves us with one last really fascinating question. Is this idea of a global symbolic leader just a utopian dream? Or could it actually be a realistic path forward for the divided world we're living in right now?